All right, guys. Thank you for waiting. We'll get this started. Cool. Just get to the slides. All right. Thank you all. Today, we're going to be talking about a review of how things have been the last 2 weeks since we launched V2 beta, and yeah, hopefully we'll be sharing some of the insights around some of the feedback we got from the community and from the users, which has been of great help. Talking about some of the usage statistics, how users have been using it, and the increase and things like that. And then just a very brief overview of what's happened and sort of the next steps after that, after this coming phase. So yeah, feel free to remember any questions and ask them towards the end. And if you're joining in, please just mute your mics. That'll be great. All right, cool. So, like I said, we'll hopefully cover three main areas: the user feedback that we got through the form, user statistics, and then a brief overview of how this last period has been and the next steps. So overall, we had over 300 submissions, 316, which was really cool in terms of feedback through the form. And it was all really great, by the way. Like, feedback was so immensely valuable to us at mistX and mistX Labs, and it really helped in this initial phase because, you know, we roll something out, there's a lot of things that only you guys as users will be able to pick up on in such large in quantity, and getting feedback from you guys, getting insights from the users is essentially what's most important with these products, and hearing from you was really great.
Yeah, hi everyone. I wanted to personally thank all the community for the involvement and the follow-up that we've had from the launch of V2. And as Hazelnut has said, we had a lot of submissions very quickly and a lot of really good quality, high quality feedback, which has helped us to identify some launch issues and fix them very quickly. So thanks again to everyone. We really value your feedback, your point of view, and really value that the fact that you are supporting us that way.
Yeah, definitely. And just to add, I would say, you know, please always feel free to send feedback through, whether it be on Discord or whether it be on the forum. You know, we can always reach out to any of us on the team. So yes, keep it coming. Let us know your thoughts. I mean, even if you don't come across any particular issue, just let us know how your experience was using mistX. So yeah, so sadly, we found that 77.5% found issues going through it, which was really good. And yeah, obviously the ones that came through, the issues that came through, we got really good feedback, and we were able to quickly, get the team to go through them and actually implement fixes that were deployed throughout this period. In terms of overall experience, so we had 70% of respondents say that they had a perfect or near perfect experience, which is obviously amazing to hear. And that's is something that we, even though 70% is a good number, we always achieve to hit higher numbers, and we hope that in the coming period, as we continue to develop the mistX and make it better and better, we hope that number will only increase. But at least for this particular phase, these last 2 weeks, considering it was beta, we think it was a really good number. We asked an important question towards the end of the form, and it was like, will you use mistX again, and will you have it as a default DEX? And the response was overwhelming. We had 87% say yes, that they will, and 13% say no, which was interesting. But again, really good numbers, and we're glad to see that, but we want to make that 100%. We want everyone to be using mistX as their default DEX, and we only hope that this number will only increase, and as we continue to increase and grow our users on mistX. So yeah, that was really cool in terms of overall experience. Did you feel there was a major upgrade? So obviously a lot of users had used V1 in the past. Not necessarily everyone that came, but we felt like we wanted to make sure that people felt like there was a difference, and not just from a visual perspective. One of the biggest feedbacks we got actually was that the UI was one of the best things that people found using mistX. But again, looking at the numbers and looking at the feedback we got, 73% said that they felt like there was a major upgrade, not just visually, not just from the user interface perspective, but also technically. And the team, spent so much time making sure that the DEX wasn't just a facelift. I say just slightly, by the way, because the interface is pretty sick. Trying not to be biased, but it's one of the best I've seen, to be honest, in the space. And it's great that people found that it was also a major upgrade from a technical perspective, whether it be through optimizing the experience, whether it be through getting better quotes, or just the overall feel from A to Z. So yeah, we were glad that people felt that way as well. And especially for the people that were using V1.
Just to
Sorry,
add,
Doug, do you want to say something?
Yeah, just to add, we are very thrilled from your feedback on that one, because we've put a lot of effort into the UI and into making this V2 a very different experience from V1. And especially, we've put a lot of effort in thinking out through the user experience and how we could provide the best user experience that you will find on the market. So we did a lot of thinking there. We really planned and scoped out many ideas, and so we're very happy that from the results, we believe that we make the right choices.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was one of the. You mentioned that. I think that's one of the key things. And even in the discussions and the meetings, one of the key emphasis is like the user experience. Like, how was the user feeling using this? How can we make it better? How can we make sure that they feel valued coming onto this platform? And that is genuinely one of the key aims, and hopefully we'll only continue to improve that as we go along. Moving on to the next point. Yeah, we wanted to find out what people were usually using, and why will come on the next slide. But there was a variety, and the majority largely was Uniswap, SushiSwap, and then we saw a couple of lower entries of like Matcha, Binance, decentralized exchanges, 1inch, Zappa, CowSwap. And it was really interesting to see, like, what people were using in the space.
Come on, I gotta go upstairs. Okay.
Sorry, I think someone just okay. So yeah. Sorry, someone.
It's okay. I've muted.
Yeah.
I've muted the person, I think.
Oh, okay. All right. Thanks. But yeah, it was really good insight to get this, and when I move on to the next one now, we'll talk a bit about.
Yeah. So just one thing before we go to the next slide. Yeah. So as you can see here, most of our users, most of the users who tried V2 were using or are using, if the biggest names here in the market, Uniswap and SushiSwap. Our biggest competitor out there offering protection is obviously CowSwap, and I'm sure you all know it today. But I believe that we do need to get more adoption from the Uniswap and SushiSwap users, especially because, as I've said last time, V2 is really only adding better user experience and more features on top of Uniswap and SushiSwap, and it's offering the best prices from those platforms. So I don't see any reason why those users will still, users who will discover mistX V2 today will still prefer to use Uniswap and SushiSwap directly when they could get the same prices and same liquidity and same list of tokens using our platform. So really, I think our focus is going to be in terms of marketing, and we hope also that the community understands that and will help us here, is really to convert those users and maybe not maybe focus less on the direct competitor that is CarSwap, even though of course we would love to for CarSwap users to see the benefits of using mistX V2. But I think the biggest market share is really on those two platforms, Uniswap and SushiSwap.
Yeah, thanks for that, Don. Definitely. So yeah, so moving on to like what, so we asked why, and I picked out here the sort of the key ones that kept being repeated. Funny enough, the first one was habit and laziness. Someone even put laziness, and or they were just told to use this particular DEX, right? And I think that's interesting because it shows that we have that, just on the point that Don was mentioning, is that we have that space there to potentially capitalize on. You know, if users out there are just using that same DEX because they're just used to it, or because someone told them to, or they just haven't been introduced to another better alternative, that's on us. And you know, even from a marketing perspective, that we need to work on in our messaging to show people that, hey, you can get the exact same, essentially the same liquidity pools that you're getting on, for example, Uniswap or SushiSwap, but over here you're getting a far better experience. We're actually going to compare the prices for you across three pools, you know, Uniswap V2, V3, and SushiSwap. Also MEV protection, you know, front run protection, instant cashback rewards, all of the extra things that we'll be getting on top of what you would be getting, you know, if you were using Uniswap. The second one's a very interesting one. Again, like it's from a messaging perspective. It seems like there's a misconception that you can only access certain tokens on Uniswap that you can't access on mistX, and whereas it's the same thing, right? You can trade those exact same tokens. You just import them on the same way you import them on Uniswap. You import them on mistX and you trade, and it's the exact same thing. If anything, it's better on mistX because we're going to ensure you get front run protection on those trades. And we'll also check if it is on other pools. We'll make sure you're getting the best price. So those two in particular, I think, are really crucial for us at mistX, and obviously the users as well. When you talk to others about it, is to show that there's you will get those things, right? You will get access to all those tokens, and secondly, you know, maybe it's time to break that habit to ensure you get these other benefits that you'll be getting on mistX. You know, whether it be the key features or just a general trading experience. Like genuinely, I know I'm on the mistX team, but like in terms of experience, it's like the best, or if not one of the best, like experiences through the moment you start your trade all the way up until the end, and it's a successful trade. It's really cool, and obviously no cost on failed transactions and free cancellations. Like there's just so much more to offer there when you compare directly to, you know, the big names like Uniswap and Sushi. The third one, trust and security. Again, I think this is to do with messaging, but obviously people, especially in this space, people are wary, right? Everyone's worried about their wallets. Everyone's worried about their tokens and you know, the value that they store in their wallets and stuff like that. And so people are always wary about where they trade. And to a degree, it makes sense, right? They want to go to the big names, the trusted names, to make sure that they feel secure when they're transacting and when they're trading. So this is something we need to work on, I think, a lot more, and make sure that people feel like, you know, we are secure, we are trusted. There is a real team here. We are solid. We're here for you. But yeah, it's interesting to pick up on these particular points. Lower fees. So people always caring about, you know, rightly so, thinking about the fees that they're spending. The team made a major sort of, they really worked on revamping the fee structure on V2, especially from a sort of transparency perspective. I think, even an update that came out recently was, when you're trading, you'll see how much you're going to be actually spending on fees, and it's optimized as much as possible to try and reduce those. I think there was, I even recall my own experience. I remember recently going onto Uniswap, and when you come to trade, it gave on the front sort of UI, it was giving a particular gas price, and it was estimating $40 to $50. But when I came to actually do the transaction, it was like $110 or $120. So even that put me off completely, and it was just like, it was kind of misleading. But the team here have done a really good job in trying to make sure that the user feels confident and comfortable knowing what fees are associated with that particular trade. Stability was another one that was mentioned. I think feeling confident that you can go to your DEX, put a transaction through, and you're fairly confident that it's going to work, it's working, it's running, and that the transaction will go through. We've seen, I'm gonna touch on these numbers coming up, but we've seen a massive increase in terms of like success rates, and this is something that we're only going to hope to continue to improve and make sure that people feel like whenever they're confident that when they come to mistX, services are going to be running smoothly, and that their transaction will most likely go through. And the team worked really hard on that period of like the phase of the transaction, once the transaction has been submitted, to give you recommendations and to give you tips in terms of the things that you can do to optimize the particular trade to make sure it's successful as much as possible. So that was a really big thing, and I'll touch on the numbers once we get to it in the following slides. Simplicity was another one. Again, I think this all comes down to UI and UX, and I think that was one of the key major points that that the team focused on in this release. In V2, that the UI, the user feels like they feel like they're in a secure place. They know what they're doing. It's very easy to navigate, and it's just you seamlessly know what you're doing. And this is something that looking at general user trends and looking at the previous experiences we had with like V1, and making sure that was optimized for the user when they come. So these are things that we're obviously always going to bear in mind as like key principles when we're building, when we're thinking, and when we're further developing and growing the DApp. Excuse me. And then the last two, obviously directly related to us: MEV protection, which is what we offer, and no cost and failed transactions. People obviously, it's a no-brainer, right? If your transaction doesn't go through, who on earth is still wasting money on failed transactions? Like, that's just like that should no longer be happening in this space.
The interesting sorry, Hadan.
Yeah.
The interesting way to view this is that on average it's cheaper to trade on mistX because you're gonna have failed transactions on Uniswap or SushiSwap or other dexes, and on average you're gonna pay the same gas cost, the same fees on mistX or those platforms, but on average, because you're gonna have failed transactions on both, you're gonna basically pay less gas at the end of the day using mistX, because those failed transactions or canceling a transaction is free. So this is really super important to understand, and I think this is really how it should be framed.
Yeah, definitely. This is so like these key points are things that we're taking away, focusing on, definitely keeping in mind when we're building, but also keeping in mind from a marketing perspective and from a messaging perspective, and making sure that we counter the areas that people might have misconceptions, such as access to tokens, or further improving and working on building that messaging, such as trust and security, and simplicity and things like that, and making sure that that message gets across, and that we work on building that trust with the user base and with with new users that come across us in this space. So on to the next one, user stats. So this is really cool. 73% transaction success rate, which has been a great improvement, and the guys are continuously evaluating this on a day-to-day and making sure that we continue to smash that target and better it. Amazingly massive 90% user success rate. So users are coming and 90% of them are having that really high success rate in their transactions, which has been like a massive improvement, which is really good, and we hope to only like continue to sustain this and make it better.
Just to explain a bit more what is the difference between those two. If you are a user and you come and trade on mistX and you get a failed transaction, but you try again, so with the retry button, for example, and then you get a successful transaction, then you will be counted as a user success. You will be counted in the user success rate because you came in on mistX and you were successfully able to trade your transaction. For some people, those numbers might be, 73%, for example, might seem low. If you trade on Binance, you're going to have a much higher number. But trading on Ethereum and decentralized blockchains is very different, and this is a really high number, actually. Having said that, and as Hasanat was mentioning, we're working continuously. So we have those stats on a daily basis, and we're always, every single day, analyzing the stats and making sure that we understand why some of those transactions have failed. And from those failure causes, we take actions. We take actions to modify slightly some of the settings or the way it works on the back end or on the front end, and making sure that we are always getting a higher success rate. For example, and we're going to discuss a bit more about that at the end, but we've released a new version yesterday evening, US time, or this morning Europe time. And I think this is going to increase even more the success rate. So we really believe that we're going to provide you always the best user experience here.
Yeah, thanks for that, Don. So in terms of dailies, average dailies, we're now on 127 average daily transactions since in the last 2 weeks, and 62 average daily users. Correct me if I'm wrong, Don, but I think this is like compared to like the last sort of phase, just before we launched, we're looking at about 5 times, I think, more higher, or 4 times higher.
It's even a bit more than that. I think like 5 to 6 times. Yeah. So we were, to be very honest, right? And I think most of you know it. We were in a very bad shape with V1 at the end of the V1 lifetime. We only had a few transactions per day, like 20, 30 transactions per day. So we're really happy that this is going up and very quickly. Now, having said that, as you can see, 62 average users. So sometimes we've seen 100 users, sometimes we've seen a bit less. So that's why we got 62 average. And 127 average daily transactions. This is not our objective, of course, right? We want to have thousands here, thousands of users, and even more than thousands of transactions. And this is where, again, we need to work on making mistX known in the market and attract more, increase adoption of the product.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely one of the key objectives is to continue to grow this. Obviously, this is just the start. It's just a slight uptick, and we definitely want to see this continue to increase exponentially in the coming weeks and months. One interesting little snippet was we found the most transaction we filed from one user in one day was 14, which was cool because one of the key things we want to do with users that come to mistX is to make sure that they're continuing to use it and growing that loyal user base. We've seen also other numbers. I think we saw 9 as well in one day. But the fact that we're having users come on a regular basis and they're continuing to transact and frequently in one day is really cool for us, and we're only hoping that's going to continue to grow. We want to make sure that the people who come to mistX and they transact and they trade, they stick around and they continue to trade with us and really become the default DEX, as we asked in the response form.
Yeah.
So
this is a very interesting information, right? And this is in line with the feedback that we've had from most users. They really felt like they wanted to come back to mistX, or they wanted to make mistX their default DEX from now on. So again, if we grow the knowledge that mistX exists, and if we get more people to try it, I think the conversion rate is quite high, and this is translating. 14 transactions by the same user, 9, 6, 10, etc. We've seen those numbers, and we're also monitoring this on a daily basis. And this really tells us that the conversion rate is high, but we need to get more people to know that mistX exists.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Next one. Obviously, one of our unique features is instant ETH cashback on eligible trades, which is a really cool feature that no one else is currently able to implement the same way we do it. Just to recap for anyone who doesn't know this, it's that essentially when you come to trade, and if your trade presents a profitable arbitrage opportunity, a large chunk of that profit goes directly back to your wallet in ETH. And we rolled this out, I believe, around mid-September. We've had hundreds of cases where people have instant cashback on their trades. And then since we've launched V2, it's been about 2 weeks now. We've seen 18 transactions get instant cashback. The highest, $504. Second coming in $325, and the third $160. So literally, these users, in plain English, literally, if they went and did that same transaction on Uniswap or SushiSwap or whatever, that they wouldn't have gotten it back. So they wouldn't have got anything back. If anything, maybe a bot somewhere would have picked it up and done something with it. But in our case, we see it as like the user's the person who initiated that, right? They're the one who created that opportunity. So like, if anything, they are the most deserved of getting something back from that opportunity. So this is a really, really cool feature that the team have developed, and they're continuing to improve. And we only hope that we'll continue to get more people coming to mistX because of this, right? The fact that you'll have pretty much all the exact same features as other DEXs. On top of it, all the other things that we're providing as mistX, and on top of that, if your trade has that opportunity, you will get a large chunk of the profit coming back to you in your wallet directly. So yeah, that's really cool, and yeah, we only hope that the users continue to get rewarded more and more as time goes on. And to wrap up, last slide. So that was it in terms of like sort of overall user stats and feedback that we got through the form. These last 2 weeks, like genuinely, the team has not had like hardly any break at all. We've taken on a lot of the feedback that we received, some through the form, some through directly on Discord. And like there's been a number of fixes that have been sorry, did you want to say something though?
No.
Sorry.
No, I don't think it's me making noises, but I'm trying to look for who it could be.
No worries. Yeah, literally these last 2 weeks, the team have like deployed a number of fixes immediately, even enhancements to certain suggestions that came through from the community. And I've just literally been working so hard to come up to fix anything that came up and to further improve it based on feedback. We're gonna talk more about excuse me, sorry. We're going to talk more about what fixes came out and what enhancements in our initiation of a bi-weekly communication that's going to go out bi-weekly. We're going to start hopefully this Friday. In that, we're going to detail what fixes came out and the enhancements and the improvements. And moving forward, it will have that, and it will also have any sort of regular anything that we want to put out there and communicate to the users and to the world essentially, and the community. This will be like this. Well, yeah, go on.
Sorry, yeah, we didn't think this was the right time now to communicate about those fixes, so we'll do it in this Twitter communication and maybe Discord. We'll see. But yeah, so we're gonna start this communication process to share more. I mean, one of the main concerns, right, that the community had is that we're not sharing enough. So I'm hoping that we have corrected this issue and that this is now fine with all these communications that we are having all together. And we also want to communicate a bit more about product updates. Because we realized that in the past we did work and released a lot of fixes and new features, but the community or the users in general were in the dark. So this is something that we want to correct. And in terms of fixes, yes, so post launch we fixed a lot of issues. Many of those are going to be communicated in the Friday communication. I can just relate one of the biggest issues that we had is we had some random signature issues, and I can just tell everyone if you haven't seen that yet that this is fixed. And I will also just take this opportunity to welcome you to refresh your browser. This is going to be the last time that you are going to have to refresh without any notification, because once you refresh, you're going to get the latest version. And in this latest version, we've implemented a way to notify you that you need to refresh your browser because a new version has been released. So that's going to be a much better experience.
Yeah, thanks for that, Dan. That sounds epic. It's good that those fixes will get deployed automatically, which is really good. Moving on, one of the next big features that we mentioned before, and a lot of people have requested it and asked about it. We're pleased to announce that it's already in the works. The team have already started working on limit orders, which has been a big ask, and we hope this will continue to grow our user base, and people will come to us for that. So yeah, that's really cool, and we're excited to get that deployed hopefully soon. But we'll keep you all updated, and stay tuned for any sort of updates on that particular feature. Marketing. So some of you know I'm leading those efforts on mistX, and I'm aiming that this coming phase, hopefully I'm going to ramp this up a lot more. Hopefully do a lot more work in marketing, get our Twitter popping, get our comms out there popping, getting in touch with other people, getting in touch with media outlets, and really starting to really push and grow our user base. So this is something that I'm going to be leading on. Always feel free to come to me for any suggestions, ideas, or feedback. More than happy to collaborate and hear any ideas you guys might have. And tied to this, one of the key things in this and is spread the word, right? Nothing is more powerful than the word of mouth, right? And it links back to that point, right, where people were saying that they're using their particular platforms because someone else told them to, or because someone, a friend or an associate told them, or they just saw lots of people talking about it or whatever. But seriously, sometimes it's just it doesn't take much, but when you just mention it in your circles, mention it to friends, you talk to people that are getting into the space or already are, but that they can benefit from using mistX if they are trading on a regular basis and stuff like that. And just mention it and tell them what we're offering, and tell them what benefit they'll get from using mistX, and that will help coming from a person they know. Always, especially because of that trust element and that security element. But yeah, seriously, you guys are the the core of this, right? The community, and you guys can really push this message far and wide. So yeah, again, like
Yes.
please, if anyone has any thoughts or ideas, come to me. I'm more than happy to discuss sort of marketing and things like that. Yeah, go on, Don.
Yeah, no, I just want to insist that just to make everyone understand, right? Marketing will ramp up. Hazelnut will is leading and will do a lot of efforts in the coming weeks and months. But we have limited resources. We have limited budget. We can't go out there and spend tens of thousands of dollars for an ad somewhere on the YouTube, famous YouTube platform or anything. We have very limited resources and budget. So I think that in addition to all these efforts that is going to be done in the marketing area, um, we are counting on you, all the community, to, I mean, if you like the product, of course, right? But we believe that you do, since we got those really good results. So we are counting on you to really motivate all your friends and connections. Tell them that this exists, tell them how good it is, and at least tell them to try it and see by themselves how they believe this is helping them in that swapping, daily swaps, basically. And last one on my end before we ask questions, unless you have more things to say. I wanted to give really a special thanks to the dev team. We have really been in a crunch mode. People have sacrificed a lot of their time, family time. All the Christmas and New Year's Eve have been days where everybody was working. So special thanks to Juice, Zig, Dyer, White Chong, Hazelnut. And yeah, and also a special thanks to Stu, who has done a really great QA works internally in Alchemist, and has discovered a lot of issues that helped us to deliver a better product at launch.
Yeah, definitely. I can only echo that. What Don just said, as a witness, as someone who's not a dev on the team. The team have been incredible, seriously, non-stop throughout this last period. Really crunching and grinding and working really hard to further develop and grow mistX. So yeah, I don't have anything else to add here. If anyone has any questions, feel free to. We'll try to do this as orderly as possible, but feel free to unmute and chime in. All right, cool. I take it as that there are no questions.
Just compliments.
Yes, hello. Sure. So at the moment, and we are looking into maybe modifying a bit how that works, but for now, if you send a transaction which will generate an arbitrage transaction, then this arbitrage transaction will make profit, and then we redirect 40% back to you as a user. And this profit is directly sent back to your wallet in an ETH amount.
Oh, wow. Okay, this is super impressive. Thanks.
Only if there's arbitrage opportunities. Not
Yeah,
every
I got it. Okay.
Yeah, so it's at the moment it's especially great for people who are trading certain volumes, which will easily generate arbitrage transactions. Later, we have a phase in the roadmap that we call the gamification, in which we are looking at taking some of those profits. So still, of course, redirect the largest portion of the profits to the user, but keep maybe a bit of that and see how we can eventually make these profits being beneficial for any user doing any transactions with a way to randomize like a lottery. But this is an idea for now. This is not something that we are 100% sure that we're gonna do. But definitely in the gamification phase, we're gonna develop those ideas and find more ways to reward users. We're also thinking of achievements, eventually NFTs, POPs, etc. So there's gonna be more to come. But this is a bit too early to say more about this one.
All right, thank you very much. And I just want to say that you guys, I think, are the smartest people in the space, and this is the most undervalued project. I just can't wait for the day that people will realize what it is, and it will take off. It will definitely take off.
Thank you very much. And if you can tell that to all the people you know who are in the crypto or using crypto products, that would be great.
Definitely, I will.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions?
Before we move on, I was a big mention. I forgot to mention in this presentation, but the genius behind all of our design work, the new UI, which was one of the most praised aspects of V2, is our magician. I like to call him a magician because he just don't know how he does it. Is Rit. Honestly, the work and the design work, not just on the UI, but everything from our marketing material to every step, even in the UI on the website and the interface has been amazing, like genuinely second to none. So no, big thank you. Yeah, go on then.
Oh yeah, just sorry, very sorry for that, Reed. I forgot to mention your name, but Reed was part of the Crunch team, and he was key to the success of the project. Also, and I mean, you know, Reed's design since the beginning. He was also designing V1, and I think we always had really great UI, images, lots of creativity, and is also the one behind all the POPs NFTs that we deliver. And I'm sure you appreciate as much as we do his talents.
Yeah, 100%. I personally just loved working with you as well, man, and I learned so much just seeing your work and being able to work alongside you, and you know, putting these like end products together. So thank you so much for everything you put into this.
So do we have any other questions from the community? Anyone?
Yeah. Hi.
Hi.
I have a sort of question. Some time ago, I had this idea, but I didn't know would the logic actually work for this. So this question is on the side of fees. So would it be possible for multiple users to opt in one transaction to cut down cost? For example, let's say like 20 users are waiting in line and opting in one single transaction, and in the end they are paying only one fee. Of course, there is this fee for transaction which is smaller, but would that be possible? And would it be cheaper?
I don't think it will be that cheaper because each transaction uses gas, and it's not dependent on whether you send them all at once or send them independently. Each transaction has a certain amount of gas that it's going to use, and this gas that it's going to use makes the price of the fee that you're going to pay for that transaction. So the way, if you want to have a bit more explanation, the way it works is you have a price of gas, which is the price of gas that is shown on the interface. The famous price in GUE that can go really high sometimes when a lot of NFT are being dropped. And then you multiply that by the gas, the volume of gas that the transaction will be using, sorry. And then that gives you your transaction fees. So if you had 10 transactions, you will still pay 10 fees because you will use 10 more times gas, basically.
Uh-huh. So in a single swap, how much gas would how many transactions are happening in a single swap?
Only one transaction. However, the route can be that it will swap, it will transfer one token to another, then another to another, and another to another, and then it makes it a bit more complex. But as far as the transaction, there will be only one transaction for the swap.
So the matter of how high the gas will be in the end is dependent on the route that it takes. Is that correct?
It's not 100% true because it really depends on the gas used is the complexity and the cost of calculation by the infrastructure. So the more complex you're going to run some functions, the more complex they are, the more process power they utilize, the more gas they're going to use. So it's not always true. So it really, what we do is we estimate the gas used to give you the best fee, and this is how we optimized it in this version. We make sure to always be certain of the gas used by of your transaction to give you the most accurate and the closest amount of fee that you're going to pay for the transaction. This is one of
Yeah,
the
I was thinking that my logic would not probably work, but I wondered. Oh, okay, I'm gonna ask it
It's a good
anyways.
idea because so one thing that we do is we send bundles, but we send bundles of one transaction. If you do use the mistX API, you have the possibility of sending many transactions in the same bundle. Since here we have a DEX UI, this user interface allows you to send one transaction at a time. We do not believe that, I mean, first of all, it will save you money if you are sending more transactions in the same bundle, but it will also greatly complexify the UI and the UX. So this is why we went into the direction of keeping it as simple as possible. And you wanted to swap something, you just swap it. And now with the new version with V2, you get a successful transactions very, very quickly in most of the times.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for explaining that for me. Learning here. Yeah, and really great work on V2. Looks really awesome.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other questions?
Yeah, I've got a question if nobody else wants to ask. Well, first of all, congratulations on V2. It looks amazing. Like, I'm really impressed with the UI, to be honest. It's much better than before. I do have some like quite maybe difficult questions. I'd like to know, like, okay, so Don, I don't believe we've switched fees on yet. Yeah, how many? There's a few questions. Yeah, how many users do we currently have? What because the dashboard doesn't actually take into account V3, which I know you guys are working on, but we're not able to get a realistic view of how many people are actually interacting with the DEX, or even an average on a daily basis. What percentage market share have we managed to take over from our competitors so far? And when does the team expect us to have a positive ROI in comparison to the amount of money that's been spent on building the product in total? And when can we expect positive return on investment, since it's funded via inflationary pressure? For example, if we spent $1 million building this, when can we see $1 million plus returned back to Crucible holders? So when's it profitable?
I will take each of the question in order. So the firstly, the transactions, the average number of users of transactions was communicated a bit earlier in the presentation. So maybe Hazelnut, you can come back to that.
So with
sorry,
transactions,
driving, so I missed
it. So with transactions,
It was
we
that
have
one,
127 daily transactions now, on average. So we've had days much higher, and we have an average now of 62 daily users coming to use the DEX on average.
Yeah. So we went from about 20 users, as I was explaining before, to about 62 users and 20 transactions per day to 120. So we are getting success, we did we have about 5 times more transactions than at the end of V1. I'm not congratulating ourselves about those numbers, right? Because V1 numbers were really bad at the end of the lifetime of V1. So this is not really something to
be honest, well done. Like it's an improvement because V1 was a disaster at the end, to be fair. So it is actually a lot better. So
Yeah.
I'm happy to
Yeah,
see
so-
that it's increasing. So that's good.
So it is increasing, and this is exactly what I was saying before. Now we need people to. We have 2 types of people in the market now. We have people who have used V1 and left because they were not happy with V1, and we have people who've never used mistX. So we need those 2 groups of people to know that V2 has nothing to do with V1. It's much, much, much better. And we need this other market share, which I was speaking about before, which is Uniswap and SushiSwap users, to know that mistX exists, and that to know also that there is not not much reasons for them to keep using Uniswap and SushiSwap, and they should come to mistX because everything they have on Uniswap and SushiSwap is also there in mistX, but they have a lot of added benefits using mistX. So I think for that, and we've answered those questions already, like we need to work on marketing, and Hazelnut has a lot of work to do on that front, and I think it will involve you as a community also in the process. And on the other hand, we need the community help. Like you're thousands of people following Alchemist on Twitter. You're hundreds, about, I don't know exactly how many of you are here, I don't have a count, but you are like at least 50 to 100 people connected here. If each of you genuinely, right, I'm not asking you to to do it if you don't believe in that, but if you do believe that V2 is great and is a great product, if each of you spread the word, we're gonna get naturally a lot more transactions and users using mistX. To come back on the fees, we do take fees, and we've changed the model to make it simpler. We've changed the model from a percentage of the miner fee, of the priority fee.
Although it's feeding back to the Crucible at the moment, because I believe someone from the team earlier today said they weren't, or they haven't been activated. I could be getting it wrong, but I just want to clarify that.
Yeah, let me clarify everything because this is not true. So we were taking a percentage of the priority fee sent to miner, and we've changed that model for a simpler UX and simpler, mostly UX. We've changed that model to a fixed fee, which we call the mistX protection fee, which is not the miner fee anymore, which is 9.99 USD per transaction. So this is what helps us to keep to make profit and to keep the software running. So of course, the more transactions, the more ROI we're gonna get, right? If you have any doubts, we didn't come up with 9.99 USD per transactions randomly. We checked how much on average we had before, and it was a bit more than that, or it was about that. It was about $10 per transaction. So we decided to make it $9.99 because this is also a way to. It's an easy number for people to remember. So it's basically a better UX. We are taking fees on Sushi and UniV2. We are not taking fees on UniV3 because we are currently writing the smart contract, which will take fees on everything. And one of the big thing that we're working on now is smart contracts. As you know, I think we've exchanged about it in forums. And one of the thing that we need to improve in mistX V2, right? Not everything is perfect, of course. Is that whenever you get a quote and you want to trade the token first, you need to approve the transaction. You need to approve swapping with this token. And today you need to do it once per token per contract. So if you want to trade USDC and you get a quote from V3, you need to approve it. If suddenly the quote changes and it's a sushi quote, you need to approve again. And this is not great, right? We recognize this is not great. So we're working on building a smart contract that will allow you to approve only once, and that will allow us to take fees on every single transaction and not only UniV2 and SushiSwap. Now to answer on the June Analytics, June Analytics is tracking those old smart contracts which are still in play now. But, and you're right, it doesn't follow the Uniswap V3. And I will say that I didn't do the count or statistics, but I'm guessing that many, if not most, of the transactions today are happening on V3, which is why Gene Analytics doesn't show those numbers. So there's a bit more work to do, and I can tell you Dyer is heads on this work at the moment. Rewriting those smart contracts, delivering it. But as you can understand, this is not a blocker. It was not a blocker for the launch. So we believe that we better fix and make V2 available and launch it on time, rather than delaying by a few more weeks the launch of V2. So this is really the next step for us, is to deliver those smart contracts.
No, of course, I agree. I mean, I'm not trying to criticize, but I think one main point that I would like to, I don't know if you guys have these figures just yet, but at what point do we break even, as holders being inflated to fund products? I think it's important that we kind of have an idea at what point do we break even or return a positive, return on investment. So I know we're charging a flat fee, which is great. I'm sure when V3 fees come online, and I think that will help as well, obviously. But at what point and how long is it going to take for us? I think it's quite important to have answers to these questions, just because of the overall macroeconomic circumstances.
You can have different objectives, right? Break even with ROI, make money as soon as possible, or develop your product first, and that can take 2 years without being profitable at all, to attract and increase user adoption. So I will really argue that ROI is the objective here. I'm not sure this is, and we could discuss that furthermore later. But my belief, at least my personal opinion, right, doesn't engage anyone, is that before ROI, you need to have your product known. Because even if we took like $50 fees per transaction, what good will it do to us? Nothing, because we have got 100 transactions per day. So this is not going to change. This is not going to be a game changer. And putting more fees or putting more ways to get revenue will make you lose users rather than attracting users, because you're not going to be competitive compared to the other products. So really,
I
ROI,
I agree with you.
I understand. No,
Yeah,
I understand your point of view. I understand as an
from a
investor,
business
you want to get
standpoint, yeah.
ROI.
From a business standpoint, we need to have figures so we can make some good decisions from a business standpoint. What end of the day, we need to have some. I understand that obviously, in order to onboard users, you need to maintain a competitive service, and our pricing strategies and structures must be, very competitive in order to pull in and attract users away from competing products, which like CalSwap, even the standard dexes. So I fully I agree with that strategy. But what I'm talking about is, do we have any figures? Do we roughly know, or are we just saying nope? We're just onboarding people at the moment. We have no idea roughly when. We don't have P&L. We don't have any of this stuff at the moment. So, and the reason why I ask is because of, look, macroeconomic circumstances are not the greatest at the moment. Yeah, that's naturally going to have an effect on the overall market, which will in turn impact Alchemist and all of our products naturally. So it would be good if we could have these figures. It allows us to kind of understand what we're getting into, and how long we may need to, sustain a non-profit making product.
Sure. We just to clarify, we are not onboarding people. We recognize that the market is difficult. When we're all paid in Mist. Hiring people when the Mist is so low is quasi impossible, because you can't align expected salaries in USD in the Mist token. We are all impacted by the price of Mist. Our salaries have been divided by 5, right?
Yeah.
And we are very much, as much as you are as an investor, we are also very impacted as developers and builders. I understand your concern about the ROI. We do not have now a full picture of the ROI and when we're going to be profitable. But why? Because the strategy is not about building the ROI and making it even. The strategy now is to build features. And once we have those features in, we're going to be able to monetize more. I mean, each feature goes with its ROI, if you want. Some are in USD or ETH. Some are in growing user adoption. not every single feature that you're going to develop is going to be about making money. And
No,
growing
of
user
course not. But
adoption,
every product we develop should be about making money. That's my concern. I know not
but
every
making
feature will be. I
so really
understand that,
really the
but every
perspective
product, because look, I don't
at the
want
end
to.
of the day,
Yeah,
you want to make money, and we all
yeah.
do.
I
But
don't want to be. I don't want to be. Look, I understand. We spent a lot of time working on whatever we were working on. But my concern is that we don't even have these figures, so we don't even know.
let me phrase it differently. Focusing now on ROI will drive us in the wrong direction. So we want to focus on what we discussed about in the roadmap.
Cool.
Moving to more layers, getting more users, and once we'll have those 10,000 users a day or more, we can discuss back ROI, and then we can focus on that, because
Do
this
we know
is
how
where
long
it
that's
will
going
make
to
sense.
take? Do we have an idea of how long it will take for us to have 10,000 users a day?
It's extremely difficult to say, right?
Yeah.
But we're going to work towards this, obviously. Like moving to other layers where we have there is a lot of volume will help us a lot, obviously. But
Yeah,
Okay.
just
this is all the roadmap.
just to add, and I can wrap with this, is that these are very good points, cryptographic, and I think in terms of like actually projecting, I think we've literally been, especially with V2, we've been around for like only literally 2 weeks. And
Look, I know
what
you
we'll
guys
do,
have been with V2 from a UX and UI perspective, yeah. So I don't want to seem like I'm coming across harsh, but here's the reality: like every question that should be asked should always be, when do we see a return on our investment? Quite simple. That's from my perspective, anyway. I get what we're doing, but we had 9 months or 8 months to get all of that done. Whatever happened. It is what it is. It's just like, okay, we've built a good product, amazing, yeah. It works really nicely. It's like, from a UX and UI perspective, it's fantastic. Which and I love it. I've got no like criticisms about the actual product itself. The problem is that you're getting into and this is not it's not our fault or the team's fault, but it's just from a macroeconomic perspective, you've got uncertainty ahead. So it would be good to have figures to know, okay, it might take me a year to break even. This is what I've got to do to prepare for that. This is what I've got to have ready to cover my OPEX, right? And that's my concern. I think it's not just a mistX thing, by the way. I think every product should have these figures available. Every single product should have that. And I think it should be very transparent. And I think people need to know, what they're in for, in that sense. If we're going to, here's how I see it. As a holder, if I'm going to fund a project, or if, not just me, but anybody, we're going to fund a project, there should be kind of like a general idea of when we're going to break even, be it a year or 2 or 5 or 10. That's regardless. The merit of the product can mean that it might take longer, right? Or the long-term strategic goals of the product can mean that it might take longer from a business perspective, which is completely fine and acceptable. It's more around actually having those figures. We've got X amount of users and it took us X amount of time to onboard those users from our previous point. Okay. And, with our marketing plan, how quickly do we expect to onboard those users? What KPIs are we measuring our performance against? Because I think if it's going to be...
Just to I agree, right, with everything you said. And if you're part of the council, maybe you can help us on that. Just to remind something, we're 5 people in the team. It's not like we have dedicated people to build this and stuff. So either you want us to spend time to build these numbers, and I agree that to a certain point we will work on that and we will deliver that, right? I'm not saying that we won't, but you also need to understand that it's always very, very, very important to select how much time you spend on your resources on each topic. And sometimes sometimes are better for building, and sometimes are better for doing all these KPIs and all these follow-up and tracking tools. So again, I fully agree with you. We need to be better at this. I'm 100% in line with you. We also need to be very careful that if we add any of this, it doesn't delay any big feature that will bring us more users back. You see what I mean? So, but we can take it offline, right? Because I don't want to. I don't want this to be dragged. If you're part of the council, I'm sure we're gonna have many discussions around that anyway.
We'll see. Okay. Well, thanks.
All right.
I appreciate it, man.
Just one more thing, Crypto. I wanted to one of the points you mentioned. We have not delivered yet some of the profits that we made so far to the Crucible. And that's only for a technical reason, nothing else. It's because each time we need to do so, we need to have certain people called and actioned. And this is complex. This is a way too complex process for us to do so. It's just the way it's been built. It's not. It's like that. It's historical. We are working actively, and this is also part of the new contract that we're building at the moment, the smart contract. This new smart contract is also simplify greatly for us the way we split funds and send it back to the Crucible. So as soon as this is released, and I'm thinking very soon in the coming days, or maybe 1 week, 2 weeks, very soon. This is going to be done again back like it should have been done initially on if I think it's monthly basis, I think, if I remember well, and then it will be done every time this is required. So it will be much smoother, and you will see those funds going back. But don't worry about this. Not having done it doesn't mean that it will not be done, and the same amount that should have been done will be
No. I've got no worry about that at all. Honestly,
Okay.
like I'm not questioning you know the team's integrity in that aspect at all. I know it will be done, and if it hasn't been, it's just simply due to technical reasons. And I look forward to seeing the new contract in action, and I hope we can onboard users. I understand your concerns. I don't want to take up too much time, so I'll let somebody else think, and I can address any more questions if I need to privately. But thanks,
Yeah,
appreciate it.
thank you very much. I think we can all agree that we need more user using the platform, so we need to increase user adoption. Once we have user adoption, we'll have more revenue. Once we have more revenue, we can really estimate much more easily the ROI and the plan and when we're going to be flat and etc.
Agreed. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Thanks for taking time
Thank you
out.
very much.
Just to add to that, Zig here, we are regularly having strategy meetings now to kind of analyze which upcoming features are going to be best for ROI and which kind of things we should concentrate on in terms of effort. So that is something we're like actively looking at.
From if I can just add, yes, thanks a lot, Zig. Look, my questions aren't geared towards saying, oh, we're not making a profit straight away. It's not like a critical kind of question. It's more geared from the aspect of, do we have figures and do we have a plan? Because every time macroeconomic circumstances change, the circumstances of the overall market change, right? And that has a direct effect on us as people in the crypto space, let's say. Yeah, so it's just like kind of like safety planning, if you know what I mean. Having a rough idea of how long it'll take. I don't care if it takes 2 years. I believe in the project. I believe in the product, right? It's just being able to to kind of gauge our success and identify points where maybe we need to, even as a community, increase kind of like efforts at certain strategically important times. So that's kind of where I was going with it. It's not a critique of of return on investment in that sense. But thanks a lot anyway, man. I don't want I feel like I've taken too much time, to be honest. So I want to give somebody else a chance to ask any questions.
Any questions from anyone?
Yes. Did you plan collaborate with local coin swap?
Sorry, I don't think I understood the question.
I think it was if we collaborated with local coin swap. We haven't. I don't think local coin swap.
No, we haven't.
No.
Bad, thank you.
Any other questions from anyone? All right, so I think you can wrap it up. Thank you very much for everyone for joining today. I think it was very good. Again, thank you for all the feedback, all the questions today. I think those we really value all questions, right? So thank you very much for all everything. Hasanla, do you want to conclude?
yeah, that's it. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Don, and thank you, Zig, and thank you for your questions and feedback. And yeah, feel free to reach out to us at any time if you have any feedback or queries.
Yeah,
Have a
thanks
good
for
night,
joining,
everyone.
everyone.
You guys.